Everybody, welcome to the Mastering Management Rights event, which is the first of a new series of events that ResortBrokers will be conducting in years to come. Thank you very much for taking the effort to be here. We know some people have had early starts to get here on time. We know how busy you all are, so thank you very much for your time. We do hope there'll be some useful tidbits to take away with you today. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. There's obviously drinks and food at the back. Help yourself. Toilets are up for this end. Just to run you through the format roughly, we've got 4 speakers today. We're technically due to wrap up at 10:30, but we can overrun a little bit. I know some people here will have to get on, so if people need to leave, that's absolutely fine. Each speaker will be doing about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, which will leave us about 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A at the end of each speech. If there's time at the end, we can invite some more Q&A, and all the speakers will be hanging around afterwards. So if anyone's got any particular questions, feel free to spot them out and speak to them afterwards. First of all, just a big welcome and a big thank you to our guest speakers who've sponsored the event and given up their time today. We've got Mahoneys, who are the leading legal firm working in the management rights space. John will be giving us a dive into the health of our agreements and giving us some tips and advice in regards to being able to review and check our agreements to make sure our business is as secure as possible and as maximising its value. We've got Holmans, the leading accountants working in the management rights space. Many of you will have used Holmans for income verifications and continue to use them for ongoing auditing and accounting purposes. We've got Lel from Holmans, who will be giving some bit of advice in regards to reviewing Form 6s to make sure they're in tip-top order. And also looking at the way income and expenses are documented and recorded to keep our P&Ls as tight as possible and ensure maximum value when you do get around to selling. We've got Mybos in the house. I'm very excited to have Mybos here. Many people will know Mybos. Mybos is the leading all-in-one building management software. Helping managers to streamline their businesses, make them more efficient, help with communication amongst owners, and also interestingly today, I think they're going to touch on ways of potentially charging additional income streams to owners and monetising that, which would potentially be a way of increasing the value of your business. As I say, we've got about an hour and a half and a lot to get through, so I'll keep the introductions pretty short. Our first speaker today is John Mahoney, who is accompanied by Amy O'Donnell. Welcome, John. You sit here.
Morning, everybody. Thank you, Alex, for the introduction. Yes, my colleague Amy is here this morning, but Amy decided to pass the buck to me. I passed it and said, John, I'm happy for you to do it. So that's what I got. Amy might have a few things to say. We'll see. We were asked to speak today, and we were asked to cover a few things, which was whether it's in the interest of someone else.
Really adjusted to you. So the first bit that you were saying was a bit quiet for everyone.
Yeah.
The woman, she asked me to come up and adjust it while you were talking, and I almost did, but then he came up, so I didn't.
Yeah.
But when you talk again,
Sorry, John. It's just the button. It's a bit of a just give it a firm press.
And it's something which we have done.
I'll just use the mic.
And that is rather than rely on role agreements and all those multiple deeds, deeds of variation, etc., to go with them, contemplate a new agreement altogether. The benefits from that include those there. For a start, the new agreement can be 25 years. So if you've got 17 years left on your current agreement when you go to the market, you might be able to top up to 22. The new agreement can be for a total of 25 years. And it can actually start within a year of when it's put in place. So we have people who are looking to sell and they arrange with their body corporate to have a new agreement starting in 10 months' time. They then got 10 months to sell. And when they sell, they'll have actually more than 25 years to go. What we do in that case is we assign the old agreements that the new one fits in with the buyer at that point of starting. So it's not a bad thing to bear in mind. I guess more importantly, we will overcome any due diligence issues that have been raised. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But we're finding that there are certain lawyers out there who know a fair amount about management rights, but they're always looking to find some minor technical matter to interfere with a sale or a purchase. I'm all for looking after my clients when they're buying. I don't go overboard with technical rubbish that some people do. So we have to bear in mind, we've got to say people when they're buying. This matter, this issue, is the risk. Not so much because your agreements might not be valid, but because some lawyer, when you sell, is going to find a problem with it. So you need to make up your mind whether you want to get that fixed up now or later. New agreements can solve that problem.
Okay, John? Is it not working? You just got to press it really. There you go. Is that go?
No.
There you go.
So in terms of those old agreements that you issue that we talked about, it is the case, and I'm sure some of you have been there, where your documents consist of 5, 10, 15, 20 or more various agreements and deeds, etc. And sometimes they go missing. We find that banks have an awful habit of demanding to get original agreements at settlement. When they turn up at the time of sale, they haven't got anything. They've lost them. Then you go and try and certify copies, etc. So the new agreement becomes that. If you happen to not have your guarantee compliant agreement, we can deal with that. There is an issue which I won't go into, but there is this thing called Section 116B, which is all about whether the owner of the lot was the manager or somebody else, or whether that deed is in place. That comes up more and more these days as well. Changes to legislation, changes that have arisen because of legal cases. And some technical issues I've spoken about before, some last one said. So a new agreement will overcome all of those issues. So the other benefits you get from the new agreement gives you an opportunity to use schedule duties to add certainty to what you're doing. I'd be interested, if I go back 15 years or so, the consensus was that the last thing you want in your agreement is a detailed schedule of duties. People prefer to keep it open, to then review it. Around the room, the managers here, how many of you have a fairly specific schedule of duties? Any bad experiences with that, or does it work well in terms of you know what you've got to do, and what corporate knows what you've got to do as well?
Yeah, I was just use that as a guide, really.
When you try to remain schedule, which someone like Barry Turner was getting good at us, I think it's great. They go to building, they see exactly what they've done,
Thanks, mate.
work out what they've done, etc. The other benefit of that is it gives you an opportunity to increase remuneration. Because if the body corporate would like you to adopt a detailed schedule of duties, that's fine, provided you pay me for that. And maybe that Barry comes up with a figure of $150,000, and you stuck on 120, you can negotiate somewhere with that. But maybe a whole lot more than the $90,000 being paid now. Modern, technically compliant, claiming these new agreements as well. And the thing about a new agreement also is that it demonstrates to any buyer that you've got a good relationship with your corporate. No one's going to give you a new 25-year agreement unless you have that kind of relationship. So it's something to keep in mind, something you might think about as to whether it's worth your while to do that. Decoupling is the other topic that's fairly commonly discussed in recent times, and that's, as you know, that's the concept of removing the obligation to own or live on site. In the early days, it was very important in management rights that the manager resided on site. You go back to the management rights when it was predominantly the holiday building in Gold Coast, where someone conducted voting activities and caretaking. It was pretty important to have someone there all the time. Because guests would arrive at all different times with all manual bookings. It's what people came to expect. It was also the case back then as well that to be able to get your letting agent's licence, you had to reside on site. It's another reason why it was the norm back then. It was much harder to get your real estate licence then. You had to have a whole lot of experience and do a whole lot more study than what you do now. So most people had their resident letting agent's licence and you were required to be on site. It became an expectation, as I say. Today, as you know, most modern complexes, it's unusual to require that the manager own or reside on site. Most of what we're seeing in new buildings is that the developer will have a small commercial office for the manager to operate from. That may mean the manager has to buy that. That's pretty good security for you as a manager as well. Because you own that office rather than an occupation authority, you've got much more security there as well. You might have to pay for it, but it gives you a lot of security. As we all know, massive changes to communication where so much can be done on your phone. You don't have to be on site to do those. So you can open gates remotely. You can book the people who press the bus up remotely. You do all those things without having to do that. And of course, I suppose the biggest thing that's led to this, particularly on the Sunshine Coast, and less extent the Gold Coast, and that is that the rising value of real estate has been totally disproportionate to the rising value of the rights. And you might have clients on the river at Noosa 15 years ago where their management rights were worth about the same as their unit. And within 5-10 years, the unit's worth 6 or 8 times the value of the management rights. This doesn't add up. And in those cases, in almost all, we've been able to get the couple to work. One particular body corporate Hastings Street Noosa that refused to budge on that. We're getting close every general meeting, getting it through, and work through. Yeah. To decouple, you really need to get the support of your committee, or at least the committee that's proposed what they're doing. They'll want assurance that other than residing there, all your duties will remain the same. You may have to change some provisions in your agreement about office hours, depending on that kind of thing. All of those things, that's an ordinary resolution at general meeting. And you may need to amend the bylaws. Not generally, but if you do, that's a special resolution, which is effectively 2/3 of those who vote in favour of that at general meeting. How do you get support? Now, this is those around the room who have said this many times before. I think you ought to start thinking about selling the day you sell the purchase. If you need to make sure from that time on that you've got the support of your community members. So don't just do a reasonable job, do a great job. Let the owners know you're doing a good job. Get your newsletters out there, tell them what you're doing. Let them think that you're the one who's running the show here. Not the body corporate manager, not the committee, but you. You're the one who's calling the shots, doing all the work, you're the proactive one, etc. Regular communication with your owners and your committee, build your relationships, make them strong, and then point out to the body corporate the advantages of a new agreement. It will help that building attract a new manager. It will, in terms of decoupling as well, sorry, I'm not just a new agreement, but in terms of decoupling, what we're finding in many cases is that we can validly say to the body corporate, if you don't let me decouple, then you're never going to find yourself an on-site manager again, because it's not worth anybody to buy this business and pay this price for you. So if you want to have management rights and you want the efficiencies of someone who's your caretaker and letting agent and doing the work for a whole lot less than external contractors, you need to let them be paid so that you can get yourself a new manager. That's it. I think we're getting questions. One thing I might just add, I know I talk about new agreement, but if I was looking at putting my business on the market now, I'd be going back and looking at the advice you've got from your lawyer about your options. Have you exercised your options? Do you need to get top up? Get those things sorted out. We see so many cases where people are forgetting to exercise their options. It's really critical that you do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are any such questions, please pop your hand up. The lovely Chanel will come around the microphone. John, just a question myself. Obviously, you're referring quite good going for new agreements as an opportunity to revisit special duties. Is there often in situations where you have successfully arranged for a manager to get the agreements, is it generally a bit of a trade-off? Do you find that committees might ask for some additional duties in there, or is it in order for, can you give some working examples of that possibly?
Yeah, Alex, it's a good question. It comes back to your relationship with your body corporate. And if they see that you've been a good manager and that you're doing a good job, then they're generally happy to negotiate with you around that. And we've had lots of cases where we get the schedule, we then get the matching remuneration, and it's way above what the body corporate wanted to pay. So we then scale back the duties. And if you've got that relationship, you can have those discussions. You can sort those things out and finish up with a compromise that works well for both parties. So yeah, we can do.
Any questions on the floor? Here we go. No, Marissa, you can get the group of the name.
To be able to do this special resolution, how long in advance before an AGM does it kind of need for our lawyer to get everything ready to go for the AGM?
The time to submit your motion for an AGM is before the end of the body corporate financial year. And generally, your AGM has to be held within 3 months of the end of the financial year. So typically, about 4 to 6 weeks before the end of the financial year, owners will get a notification from the body corporate that you need to get any motions on the AGM in by this date. About 3 months before the usual time for AGM.
I'm guessing that, John, if you're looking to have new agreements, you want to be talking to the committee on time before that.
Yeah.
What's the time for that? I mean, are you
Some will get done in 3 or 4 months. Some will get done in 3 or 4 years. Again, it comes a lot back to that relationship with the body corporate. And also how bad your agreements are. They're really bad in the body corporate wants them modernized and in the legal process.
Anyone else?
I need to put everyone.
Only to change the bylaws. And that's very much the exception rather than the rules. To change your agreements, decouple, new agreements, ordinary resolutions. So a majority of those owners who vote at the general meeting.
Yeah, I think we have in our bylaws that the manager's unit is unit 30. So that would mean a change bylaw.
Well, not necessarily, because it depends on the exact wording of the bylaw. If the bylaw was to the effect that you can only be the manager if you occupy lot 30, that's a problem. But if it says that lot 30 may be used for these purposes, that won't necessarily need to change. It depends on the exact wording.
Marissa, just a question over there.
My question is around the decoupling. What's been the success rate or the take-up on decoupling of the committees for feedback indicators? Are they generally tied all together with a new agreement, or you can kind of decouple the property as a separate motion, as a separate idea? And if so, what's been the sort of pass rate for that activity?
You don't need a new agreement to be funded. It might be something that the committee would like to talk about, and you can, so they get some benefits from that. But as a general rule, probably 9 out of 10, we would simply amend the current agreements. In terms of success rate, we've got some pretty good arguments that we use. I would say that we would get through first attempt probably 8 out of 10. If we don't get something through, you've got generally a better than 50 chance of getting through. I think at the moment, and we had one really, not complicated, but difficult one in Newfoundland, of course, where it took us 2 or 3 goes to get there, and we had the committee lobbying against us. But owners saw why it was in their interest to do it. So, as the one in Hastings Street, we've tried a couple of times, we failed. We've got others. I would think that at the end of the day, we get 9 out of 10 through 80 of the time.
Would it be fair to say, John, that as decoupling has become more prevalent, body corporate lawyers have to become more accepting of it, so it's maybe easier than it was a few years ago?
Yeah, I think what we used to find with the body corporate lawyers for a start was that they would say to the body corporate, you're paying the manager for this duty. So if the manager doesn't want it on site, then the remuneration should be increased. Well, that's wrong. The manager doesn't get paid to live on site. It costs the manager money to live on site because the one walking out to own the unit, etc. So that argument hasn't been raised for a while. It generally comes down, lawyers tend to say these days that it's up to you as the committee and the owners to decide whether you're going to be able to get the level of service that you are used to and you want if you seek to move off-site.
So, any other questions? Or should we go?
John?
So with committees and them being more educated on their rules and duties for the manager, do you think committees should be doing some development themselves, and you see this as an opportunity to launch?
It's an interesting question. Those of us in this room deal with a very, very small minority of bodies corporate. Most bodies corporate in Queensland are unit sizes of 6, 8, 10, 12. The vast majority. So if you change the rules, you're changing them as well. There was discussion in the last legislation review, maybe one before, about making committee members in certain sized buildings have to go through a process and making those committees appoint an external specialist member of the committee. That's the way, I think. The government didn't have much appetite for it then, and I think there's more on their plate now to worry about that. So, great concept, I just don't think so.
Thank you so much, John. We might move on to the next presentation just to grab some time. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you, John. And we give everyone welcome the lovely Lel Holmans from Holmans to stage. Thank you very much.
Oh, where am I? What do I do? What do I press? Okay, the arrow one. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Lil Parnes from Holmans Accountants in Noosa. We look after clients all over Australia. And my team specialise in the accommodation industry, so we're working with vendors, buyers, and we look after ongoing accounting, tax, audit, all of the things. But I'm going to be talking to you today mostly from a sale perspective, so how you can maximise the value of your business by just doing what you should really be doing to make the most money whilst you're running the business. So everyone's very concerned about getting ready for sale, although some people could be more concerned about that. But why wait until you're ready to sell to get things in the best shape for a buyer? Why not go into the business and think, how can I make this business better for the duration that you're running the business? Because most people, I would say all, are buying these businesses to make money, potential gain, but make the most of it whilst you're in there rather than just making it better for the next buyer, is something I would say is maybe an offset to the work that you need to do to get there, you know. Sorry, this is a bit finicky. So Form 6 reviews. So your letting appointments are, so you're selling two things, your caretaking agreement and your letting rights. So your letting rights are your letting appointments. They need to be in good shape for you to sell and get maximum value and minimize the risks. And like John said, you should start preparing for sale the day that you buy the settle on the business. And likely you've paid a good amount for a verification report, due diligence and financial verification when you bought the business. And no doubt there were things raised in there regarding the letting appointments that were things you could consider improving, or potential things that have been accepted that are not technically right that need to be updated. Have you looked at those since you settled? And if you haven't looked at those reports, that's where I would start, because you paid for those. And they could well have the answers for you initially as to how to improve your agreements. And speaking of changes to any agreements, any changes that you make to your, basically what are your agreements? So make sure that every unit that you're looking after, you have your valid agreement. Make sure that you have your letting appointments in full, which is your Form 6, any potential addendums, and your schedule of fees and charges, and that they're current, and that they're fully signed, they have the correct lot owners' names. If their lots are owned by multiple owners, they should have all of the names. I'm probably nudging into John's territory here, but these are the things that we do try to look at from a financial verification standpoint as well, also largely legal due diligence, but most importantly, make sure they're the correct forms. So when are you getting those forms signed, and is that the current form that you should be using? So if you're after May 24, you should be using the new Form 6s. If there are changes to schedule of fees and charges, like your increased 5% or your cleaning fees, or any changes to your fees, you can maintain your existing Form 6s, but any material changes, it's a good excuse to update your agreements with your owners, is that there is a new form. And even if you don't technically have to issue new forms to all your owners, there's an excuse there that the law changed, that the agreements changed then, which can help you with, like John was saying about the caretaking agreements. There's no harm, if you've got a good relationship with your owners, of just clean slating it, having a brand new Form 6 that's current, having a new addendum. I strongly recommend you look at the ARAMA. I'm useless with these, so I'll probably end up bashing through them at the end, and hopefully ResortBrokers can send them to you. But I'll basically just blether, and then this will come out at the end. But the agreements, if you can do a brand new Form 6 under the current rules, leave the fees and charges blank in the form. Just make sure it's correctly filled out. It's a continuing agreement. It's got the correct owners, and then you have an addendum for all your extra information. And the ARAMA, if you're not all ARAMA members currently, I'd strongly recommend that you are. You have access to all their materials, and one of those, which is poured over and updated by industry professionals, is the ARAMA addendum. And even if you want to maintain the look of your existing addendum, just compare. Make sure you've at least got everything that's laid out in the ARAMA addendum tailored to whatever your agreement is with your owners. A really common one that's coming up with the OFT at the moment and on verification, financial verification, is cancellation fees. This is relevant, obviously, more to short-term. I'm not sure how much we have short-term operators here this morning, but essentially whatever you're charging, that you're authorised to do so via your letting appointments, make sure that it's accurately represented in your addendum and your schedule of fees and charges. If you don't have that in there, you're not authorized to charge that, and so that's income that we cannot verify. So if you've changed the way that you're charging at all, or even if you've just continued charging the way that the vendor did when you bought in, if you're not checking that consistently, or certainly at least before you're ready to list for sale, there's a risk that a verifying accountant's going to come in and just disagree that you're authorized to make that money. So that's time well spent. Missing signatures, all of these things I think I've just said. So separate charges. Some people have Form 6s and then they have the REIQ template versions. People's agreements are all over the shop. I strongly recommend that whatever your fees and charges are that you're charging owners are separated out from your actual Form 6, so that your Form 6 is a more long-standing agreement that you're triple checking you've completed correctly and signed, but anything that you're authorized to charge is in a separate document, so that when, provided the legislation doesn't change again, that Form 6 and addendum are long-standing, and your schedule of fees can just be sent as a one-pager if you do change your commission rates or for any other purpose. It's a lot less confronting for an owner to receive a document advising change to fees that they have to sign than it is to get however many pages all of those documents comprise that are very legal looking in nature, and everyone knows that changes that you need owners to sign can be challenging to get back for large letting pools. So a single page is a lot easier. And the OFT, and from a verification perspective, will generally accept if you've provided the updated schedule of fees, whilst ideally it should be signed, if you've provided that to the owner via communications from your property management system or via email, and then you've consistently charged at the new rate without exception by the owner, that we can then verify that income. So it's really communication and documenting that communication. Soft copies of things are very much appreciated by verifying accountants, solicitors, and the owners. So if you need to get things signed, letting appointments anyway, use DocuSign or FuseSign or some e-signing platform. For me, as an owner of a investment property, I don't want to have to find somewhere to print a document to wet sign to figure out how to scan and send back. If I can click, 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 I'm much less likely, to be honest, to look at the detail and just click to sign and accept it so I can get on with my day. So if you just outline what it is that you're doing for the owners, and hopefully the owners are happy with your service, it shouldn't be so confronting to get these things signed regularly or as a part of a bigger update. The other benefit from a verification perspective, from a sustainable income perspective, is if you have new agreements with your owners, similar to the new like caretaking agreements with the body corporate, it shows that you have a good relationship with those owners. If you haven't had the new agreements that are even in your name, so if your letting appointments are all in the name of the vendor or the vendor before that, it's less easy to see what your relationship is like with the owners that the buyer is coming in to inherit. So that's another positive to offset the pain of going through the process. And another thing, if you do plan to update your agreements for sale or just otherwise, please reach out to your auditor or accountant, hopefully industry specialized, to review them prior to sending them out for signature, because you don't want to send them out for signature, get ready for sale, and someone tells you they're all wrong. That will be annoying. And readily, sorry, I think I've said all of these things. The owner notification proof was, like I said, if it's not signed, at least be able to show that you have communicated the changes to the charges or your agreements or what have you. Form 6s absolutely need to be signed and addendums, but changes to other terms and conditions and charges potentially are verifiable, at least from a financial perspective, if you have communicated and sent those, and that we can reasonably accept that an owner has accepted those changes by virtue of not complaining or what have you, if the charges are all clearly presented on their owner statements and what have you. And then readily accessible documentation. All of the PMSs that you all use, provided you're getting through audit, they pretty much all have document filing systems, and your auditor and verifying accountant should all be provided access to your systems. If they're cloud, which please, they should be. You can save all of your agreements to these property management systems. If you're paying REI Cloud or Property Me or Console or whatever, part of the subscription you're paying is hosting this data, and you can save your documentation there. So it's there, it's ready, updates are in there, and you can, it just makes everything easier. It doesn't have to be so confronting that you're getting ready for sale and you need to prepare all this documentation for a buyer's accountant to come and verify, because you should be comfortable providing the access to that file in a read-only auditor level, and you've done it. You've given them access. That's all that needs to have happened if you are consistently filing your information in soft copy, ready to go. If you go back to your buildings now and you have a filing cabinet with dusty old Form 6s with a million versions, please just pay a teenager to come and scan them, or do whatever you need to do and get them in soft copy and move on. Get rid of the filing cabinet and get some more space in your spare bedroom. And again, so the due diligence delays. If you are looking to sell, if you're going through all the hassles of selling and the expense that you will incur to sell, with your own legal costs and fees to help you get there, please spend the time getting a good sale P&L done up, obviously, so it's verifiable, but spend the time getting your documentation in ready so that you can be verified, because there's such a lot of work in the lead up to sale contract, and everyone's very excited you've got the contract. And then oftentimes vendors seem utterly surprised that a verifying accountant might need to access information to verify the numbers. And as it currently stands, contracts all start from the contract signed date. And verifying accountants have 2 weeks to verify the figures that you're selling your business on. And if you don't give us the information quickly, that will push out, and that will push out. And it's just another risk that you have as the seller, that your sale will fall over because we can't get the work done in time and buyers get spooked and all of the things. So just have everything ready. And I think I've said all of those things. Okay, so do I still have time?
Yeah.
So that's all your letting appointment documentation considerations. From a sale perspective, obviously the big number is the net profit that you're selling based upon. And like I said, I really strongly recommend that you get an industry accountant to prepare your profit and loss for sale. And if you have a good industry accountant, you should understand what they're doing for the fee that they're charging. And they should not be, in my opinion, preparing a P&L that is pulled out of your Xero or MyOb, putting through some adjustments and slapping some notes on it. Your net profit for sale purposes should essentially have already been verified by your own accountant. So if we're doing a sale P&L, we're looking at your bookkeeping data and your property management system data, and we're verifying that that income is there. We're looking at least a sample Form 6 and schedule of fees and verifying that there's an authorization to earn that income, and really making adjustments so that they can be verified. So there's no point in pushing your accountant to give you a bigger net that is not verifiable. It's just going to make the sale fall over. When you get a verification completed, you're going to have spent a load of money, the buyer's going to have spent a load of money, and no one's going to be happy. So you just need to make sure that whatever you end up with is reasonable. If you need to make labor adjustments because you're not in there all the time, you're a two-person, I'm sure everyone knows this, but so the net profit for sale for management rights is on the basis of a two-person team working in the business and not being paid. And that 2-person team theoretically should work 45 hours, maybe a little bit more, but that's the basis for this net profit. So increasingly we see adjustments for labour costs, and that's because we have evolved from the 2-person team method of running these businesses, because one person might be running the business and the other person's got a corporate job or stays home with the kids or does something else. Or the 2-person team who own it don't really run it, they employ other people to do lots of things or what have you. So the situation has changed. And because we need to make labour adjustments to compensate so they can be valued on the same basis, any labour adjustments need to be substantiated. It can't be, oh yeah, we do work in the business, both of us, but we employ Joe Blow to do some caretaking for us, and we pay cash to this guy, and we do this and that, but a buyer wouldn't need to do that. That isn't a verifiable answer. If you don't need to do it, why are you doing it? And if you don't need to do it, often the answer is it's a lifestyle choice. That's very difficult to stomach for a buyer or a verifying accountant, because like it's all money, how much, why would you spend money that you don't need to spend, essentially? And if there's a good reason and it's verifiable and you can still substantiate that the P&L is presented in such a way that a buyer could come in there, 2 people and work it and pay the same costs as you and make that profit, happy days. But if you're making large labour adjustments and you can't substantiate why, you're wasting your money even getting that sale P&L done up. So again, talk to your industry accountant and make sure that they understand and you understand, and you can reasonably substantiate that when a buyer's accountant comes to ask the question, which they absolutely will ask. And on that, as a verifying accountant, the verifying accountant is working for the buyer. So echoing what John said, we're working for the buyer or the seller, but we want to make it work. We want to facilitate the sale where we can. We don't want to tear P&Ls apart just for the sake of it. If someone comes to us and they really want to buy this and something isn't quite right or a charge isn't quite authorized, but really it could be and it would be an easy update, we work with the brokers and the vendors and buyers, and maybe they can get the agreements, maybe that could be built into it or whatever. We want to make it work where possible. But completely lost my train of thought. Verification. God, I was going okay. Sorry, verification. So I've gone off piste and then I've lost track. I'm sorry.
Talking about labour adapt,
labour adapt. I'm pretty So just making sure that you've got that your P&L is good. It's accurate. You're not bullying your accountant to make lavish adjustments. It's a waste of everyone's time. And make sure that your charges are all authorized. So periodically just look at your owner statement at the end of a month. Literally just sit down one day when you've got some time, look at all your owner statements when you do end of month and look through those Form 6s and make sure all of those charges are authorized. And tick, you can move on. If they're not, get them updated. And get your documents all filed and what have you. And make sure that personal expenses are personal. Don't pay them through the business. Take out a lump of cash, put it as drawings and pay it from your own credit card or pay it from your own personal account. Sorry, that was what I was saying before I completely lost track. We're working for the buyer. So whilst we don't want the sale to fall over from technicalities, we're not going to work harder to figure out if something might be personal. If it's in there and you've paid it from the business account and it looks and smells like a business expense, we're not working hard to undo that. So if you make your accounts and bookkeeping records as clean as possible, that's what it is. So how much is a few cents dodgy tax savings when you're thinking about your value of your business? So people think, oh, I'll put all of this through the business account, I'll put this through the business account. And you might save a few dollars in tax, and you might not save anything in tax because your tax accountant might well be adjusting that out and you don't know about it, but you've still got those dodgy personal expenses in your bookkeeping file. When we come to verify it and we say, okay, that looks like a business expense, that's reducing your net profit, what's the point? So just keep it clean, do the right thing. I don't work for the tax office, but like, how much are you really saving from claiming an extra $50 at the pub or whatever you're doing? So just keep it nice and clean, keep personal things personal. If you run multiple complexes, liaise with your bookkeeper and accountant. Keep everything as separate as you can. All of the systems are such that it really isn't that hard. It might be a bit in setting things up. It might be learning how to do things a little different, or paying a couple $100 extra a quarter for a bookkeeper to help you. But separate your buildings into appropriate categories, proportion expenses, allocate staff to the appropriate buildings or what have you, so that you've done that. That should help you in running your business anyway, to see where you're not recovering on costs or you're paying too much for one thing or what have you. Just really look at the overall health of your bookkeeping system, and that you can run a P&L yourself, or your accountant can show you how to, so that you're making as much as you can throughout the journey. And I think I've said those things. This is just an example of how you might allocate if you have multiple businesses that you look after. So your property management system should be able to quite easily separate the income. It absolutely can. If you don't know how to do it, you can find out. But allocating your costs based on how much time someone's working somewhere or what have you, all of these subscriptions cost lots of money. So your Xero subscription or your PMS. And the reason those costs increase is because they add functionality all the time that people don't necessarily understand or use. So your systems you already pay for can help you do these things. You just need to know about it. And I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Curiosity, when you're verifying the business, you're working for a buyer, verifying a sales P&L, what's the, putting aside wage adjustments, what's the most common reason for discrepancy you find these days?
Bad bookkeeping. Oh, sorry. Messy bookkeeping and things like I've mentioned there before. Unauthorized charges, like cancellation fees or admin fees, or just discrepancy in your charges. And it's such a simple fix. Like, just like I said, look at your charges. How much are you charging? Are you authorized to charge that amount? If you are authorized but you don't have substantiation for it because you've not saved it or whatever, save it so then it's authorized. Those are the
It's basically
simple, so simple. Yeah.
Making sure your 4/6s match up to what you're charging.
Yep.
And if they're not, then you need to get your 4/6s basically.
Yep.
And solve the problem.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions? Yep.
Morning. Regarding the Form 6s, I still have a lot of the old M20 forms. How do I get known to sign a Form 6? Basically, I'm paying more.
Well, what? Question first. So, sorry, I definitely skipped a slide. So the PAMDAs, everyone understands the PAMDAs cans and are still valid. However, any changes to what you've been charging are invalid since the legislation changed, technically. So that can be adjusted out on verification. Is the amount that you're charging under your current arrangement, is that in line with whatever's on your PAMDAs and your agreements?
Yes.
It is, yeah.
But
I mean,
it's kind of, it's well at that, the fixed amounts rather than percentages.
is it short-term or holiday? Short-term or permanent, sorry. I think it's two separate issues that you have. One is getting them to sign a Form 6, which shouldn't be too difficult, theoretically, if you keep it all the same. I would strongly recommend you get new agreements, regardless. If it means you have to stomach receiving the same amount, at least you have a better package to sell that they're all on Form 6s. And then the separate issue is changing your charges. And it might be if you have particularly difficult owners, you're stomaching, it's just a new agreement, but you're going to maintain your charge. And that's the sell to them, that everyone else is paying a bit more, but you're being nice and letting them stay like that. And
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Anything, anybody else? No? No, thank you so much. Thanks so much. That's fantastic. Next up, we've got Sophie from Mybos. This is tell us how their fantastic building management software make your life even better. Thanks, Sophie. We got you.
So thank you everyone for your time today. There we go. So, Mybos, we've got a few users in the room, which is exciting, but for anyone that doesn't know, we're very established with management software. So, our founder and CEO, Sam, is a building manager himself, which is about processes, really funky, lots of different systems. So, he's built Mybos along with some really key partners like Periton, and yeah, or to sort of build the platform to what it is today. We've been around since 2011 and yeah, shouting owned and operated.
Managing a resort, hotel, or residential portfolio means dealing with constant operational noise. But what if your world were running perfectly? Mybos gives you one working month back every year, giving you freedom and holiday time, supported by an all-in-one platform and a responsive team. Our new product features starts right here on your dashboard, providing a complete real-time overview of your property. In the cases and reports menu, you can log and track every single issue to ensure nothing is forgotten. When you need to update the board or start a committee, our reports feature generates audit-ready data in seconds, completely replacing hours of manual administration. You can conduct digital inspections effortlessly from your mobile device. Once finished, completed inspections can be easily emailed directly to your stakeholders, keeping everyone perfectly informed. From there, you can conduct preventative maintenance and regular servicing, helping you stop reacting to unexpected breakdowns and maintain total control over your property. This connects directly to your assets register, helping you track service histories, manage warranties, and extend the lifespan of your critical infrastructure. Managing your external team is just as straightforward. Keep compliance documents, licenses, and insurance details perfectly organized in the contractor's directory. From there, issue detailed work orders directly from the platform to keep jobs moving efficiently. When you need fast sign-off on a major repair, our new voting poll feature eliminates endless email chains, securing a quick recorded decision. Once approved, suppliers arriving on site can use our new built-in contractor checking system. It tracks their exact time on site via a simple web browser and QR code. A true building management software connects the community to the site. Through the resident and guest app, occupants can effortlessly secure amenity bookings. They can also log their own maintenance requests directly from their phone, which feeds straight into your dashboard. Finally, when you need to reach everyone at once, the resident communications and broadcast tools let you send instant updates via email or SMS, ensuring a transparent community. Transform the complex into the effortlessly straightforward. Discover a better way to operate and book a free demo at mybos.com today.
Yeah, just wanted to give you a bit of a highlight reel of what the platform actually does. So essentially there's two sides of the platform, the building management side, so having a system in place to help you really effectively schedule tasks, stay on top of your duties, really easily be able to report back into the committees, and as well scaling your business, so having systems in place to then manage multiple properties, manage staff at other properties, and still have a really good grasp at where everyone's at. Another, to echo John's sort of sentiment of taking control of communication with the residents and owners. We have a broadcasting tool that you can really easily send out an email or text notification via our app, so you don't even need to be on property to let all the owners and tenants know that the lifts are out or when things are happening there. And then the other side of Mybos is the residential experience side of things. So this is where communities and owners can really see the value of Mybos in their complexes by being able to submit maintenance requests, means that the owners and tenants aren't chasing you as soon as you get onto the property to let you know that there's issues at hand. Also, as well, sort of adding those additional income streams like I was talking about. We have in Mybos, there's parcel management, so a lot of the caretakers are sort of adding on a concierge sort of service that they can track their parcels and let the residents know that there's parcels in collection and everything. So making that a really nice experience for them. Another feature that we have is in-house services, which a lot of caretakers are using to really streamline that key ordering process. So keys, when people lose their keys, it gets quite clunky that they need to sort of fighting back and forth, paying money and whatnot. Without in-house services, you can sort of add only different products, like it's a remote or a fob or a whole barrel change, whatever it is, and those big services where you placing your margin in there as well. So residents can select what they need done, they pay for it, once you just send that order out to the locksmiths and whatnot. And there's also document storage as well on both sides. Like Phil was talking about having all those forms and all the right information stored about the building, but also with the residents. So you can have those documents that you actually share with residents in their allocated folders as well, that they can access in their resident portal. The platform itself, it's a cloud-based application, so you just need your internet to access it. And we have a desktop version and also a mobile app. So the mobile app's both for building managers and residents. So again, everyone can sort of have that information at their fingertips, keep their sort of workflows going. Really nice and easily. We upgraded our whole platform at the end of 2024, but we've been making some really exciting sort of launching new features and things in the last few months. So we've got a voting panel, which the video mentioned. So if you've got work that sort of substantial work that needs community sort of input, really easy to shoot that out to the resident, to the needs on the resident portal. Again, they'll just get a notification on the app that they can see what the work needs to be done, and have good quotes, make comments, add their votes. So it's full transparency. Again, speeding up the process and being able to get that work completed. We get really good Google reviews. We've got over 3,000 buildings using it, so we're very established in the market. If you do have teams hiring, there's usually people in the market that have experience with Mybos as well. So, and a lot of building managers, they're like, when they go to a new property, they like to bring Mybos on because they know the platform, it's easy to use, it's got really great functionality. It's just a bit of a slide about our customers, the local Queensland ones here. We've got Residea, or JLL, Meriton, Belmont Group, Multipa, Clicks, portfolios, as well as a lot of independent properties as well. And our pricing is scalable depending on the size of the property, which are per building, so if you do it. Expanding your portfolio into the future, really easy to add those buildings on, and you just access it with the login. If you have property managers that just look after one property, their access rights, you can dial down what they have access to, so they just have access to one building or the portfolio. And we also just launched the live reporting as well. So and company view, you can see what cases, maintenance requests, and routine maintenance, so visual scheduled across keep in mind what's going across your portfolio. Yeah, that's all for me. Pretty short and sharp, but any questions?
Thank you, Sophie. Just a question for me. So, can you, in regards to manager services that you can run from Mybos, is that what's described? Yeah, so, like you mentioned keys, for example, I know a manager wants to run their own concierge service, not for dog walking or dry cleaning. Can you input that?
Yeah, you can have whatever. Yeah, people have dog walking, cleaning, set rates for on the 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and your margin in there. Yeah, really easy to set up whatever services you want. But yeah, easy to sort of.
It's probably a stupid question, but it's assuming just in regards to receiving charges, it just makes up their own system.
It integrates with Stripe. So, and with that, each of your different services can be linked into Stripe accounts. And there's also the option, if you want to allow it, to have cash payments as well.
The optionality is in the best place. Fantastic. Has anybody got any questions?
Thanks, Aaron. It's legal. No, not all legal. I've got a client who's been asked by the work corporate to engage and use the Mybos system for what corporate has put into the building. It's about 90 units. And my client's concerned about the amount of time it's going to take to do that. Two questions. One, is there more work involved where it is the body corporate system than the manager system?
It really depends on who's got the data and having that data ready. So there's a number of data sets that we can upload into Mybos via Excel or CSV. So essentially, we can really easily upload your assets, make a schedule of your residents, budget, and contractors. That's a good data set. And then a lot of body corporates would want to add native account logins with specific access as well. So you don't need the committees having access to everything because you might be a big separate. I think as well, you're not prepared to take any micromanage, but if they can have access to help, especially the assets and getting them uploaded, they can help attach, add photos and attach the warranty documents, because that's things that often the committees will have or the strata managers will have. So again, that is quite a project, but pulling all that information into one system then also reduces some of the costs of the body corporates if they need to access some of that documentation. Instead of going to the strata managers and post charges, it's sort of compounding, just having it all in one system. So committees very much see the value of having Mybos. And it's just, getting the information in. But as I said, we do what we can to help, get the baseline information in. But there is a bit of the digital as well.
So it would depend upon the extent to which the body corporate wanted to input data and what they wanted the manager to take an average building like that, where it's a system installed by the manager or so. How much time do you think a manager would be spending a week in a 90-odd unit building in entering data and dealing with Mybos? Very rough.
We say that it takes 5 to 6 weeks to get up and running to go through our implementation team. It's a process. In saying that, depends on where your data is. We do also have data services that we can provide to help, sort of, even if it's a Dropbox of your asset manuals and whatnot, our data team can scan through those manuals, create the assets, attach the documentation, sort of help in that regard as well. But often caretakers do charge as well for the implementation from their side because it is taking them away from their standard duties. But I'd say probably a couple of hours a day for a couple of weeks.
And
that's not the money, and then we will save them on going from no system. It'll free up a lot of their time, and it is also the compliance side of things. So having that track record, having the contract
very much, John. Thank you, Al. Any further questions? No? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to the final presentation, which is the ResortBrokers presentation. Jeff and Jessica come join me at stage. These seminars are obviously intended for established, more experienced operators like yourself, so there's a good general level of understanding in the room. So Jesse, Jeff and I, we got together and tried to identify some things that might be interesting. So we just tried to pick out a few interesting trends and ways of looking at the managed industry, I guess from a transactional point, but things that maybe cropped up over the last year or two, which maybe some people sort of might not be so cross. You bought your business 2, 3, 4 years ago. These are maybe a few variations in processes. So we titled the presentation Exit Strategy Considerations. Just things to bear in mind when we look at the sell or indeed buy. And the first thing I wanted to talk about was in relation to the clawback or forward terms. When I started selling management rights 15 years ago, the word clawback was very, very used. It wasn't a common thing when transactional management rights, probably from about a decade ago, started becoming more common. Arguably driven by banks, and increasingly became conditional finance. Obviously, banks offering finance this condition on the business, the value of the business not changing materially, so it became this protection to make sure there's no drastic changes in the lending pool. Really, probably for the last 5 or 6 years, they're absolutely unavoidable. We never see contracts anymore that don't have fallback condition in there. Where the variation comes is the terms that come around that fallback, which is what I want to touch on today. Although fallbacks are unavoidable, and I'd say are absolutely intrinsic part of management rights transactions now, claw forwards are still subject to negotiation. Not every contract has a claw forward. Some lives don't like them because the clients are based on what's the legal verification stage, so they claw forward likely to have filling cash. And other buyers might like to claw forward because it incentivises the owner of the business to be protecting that legal and seeking the legal finance. They're quite happy to get as many legal agreements as they want. So the claw forward is always a subject for negotiation. And if the buyer doesn't want these risks against agreeing to claw forward, probably not a massive issue. We're not seeing a massive upward movement in legal verification and settlement these days, but it is potentially something useful to use as leverage to negotiate other parts of the clawback clause. One of the big buffers, most people will be aware of what a buffer is, but obviously if the clawback is based on a certain amount of units in the lending pool, a buffer basically allows maybe 1, 2, 3 units where there is no variation. And the idea of a buffer really stemmed from short-term transactions. The reason being, if you've got 50 units in the lending pool, short-term lending pool, and you're running 70% occupancy, if you lose 2 or 3 units, it's probably not going to affect your income too much. You just move your occupancy around the unit. So the idea of buffer was much more prevalent with short-term management rights. As agents, permanent operators have got onto it. So permanent operators, when they're looking to sell, we always get asked whether we can put buffers into the clawback clause. Bear in mind, there's not really any logic for having a fallback with a permanent transaction. If you lose a unit out of the loan pool, you're going to lose that income, so it's not really a logical argument. However, it's sometimes quite useful to use as leverage and tie the negotiation around the fall forward. So, in other words, if the buyer doesn't want to agree to a fall forward, you might say, well, that's fine, no fall forward, but I've got a buffer to fall back. So that's something to bear in mind. The main thing I wanted to get across today is the point in a transaction at which to set the clawback terms. Going back 5 years, you pretty much set everything at contract stage. So the value of the clawback, the benchmark number, whether there's a buffer or not, it will be set at contract. What we've seen over the last couple of years, driven by a few things. One, lending was having going down, as we all know about what's happening buying units. But at the same time, rents have been going up, and CPI has been good, salaries have been going up. So what we saw a couple of years ago was we had instances where we would set the benchmark at the point of signing a contract. The verifying accountant would come in and verify the business. It's maybe lost 3 units, but it still verifies up because the salary's gone up and because the rent's gone up. In that instance, that the seller is liable to having to have a price reduction in their business, even though it's still substantiating the same amount of money, which we identified as probably not being fair and reasonable. So what the main point of this slide is I want to get across today is what we recommend, and it's something that more protects the buyer than protects the seller, but I think it's a very fair way of looking at things. The benchmark should be set at the verification stage. So really when we're signing contracts, we want to agree that there is a clawback, is there a claw forward or not, maybe talk about the buffer. In regards to the benchmark, i.e. what number learning points the clawback is based on, leave it to the verification stage. Because although you might have lost a few units, the revenue might still be there. So it potentially will prevent buyers from getting stung by a clawback, which is really fair and reasonable. At that point. Just wanted to have a chat about off-market versus on-market sales. Buyers are always asking us whether we have off-market listings, and sellers are invariably attracted towards the idea of selling off-market. In this day and age, it's hard to replace staff. It's painful when you lose staff. People don't want staff to find out. Committees can be difficult. People don't want committees to find out. So we always get asked the question, we prefer to sell off-market. But really the main thing I want to get across today is, in rare occasions, it can be beneficial. Very, very highly desirable assets, and by that I mean very high-netting assets, probably approaching $1 million plus net income, and also arguably business-only assets in prime locations. Typically we will have, as agents, we'll have a list of buyers that we can bring into that property. And selling off market will have some benefits. We can go to a group of buyers, we can put a premium price on it, and we can say, hey, this is the price. Putting it out to 5 or 6 people, are you willing to pay? We're going to look at doing a deal now. If not, it's going to go to market in a couple of weeks. And it can create some competition, put some pressure on, and it can lead to a good result. But there's very few properties that are desirable enough to substantiate that. As agents, we'll never shy away from the fact that marketing is very, very powerful. Any agent who says I've got a buyer, it's not the agent you want to be dealing with. Our job is to get as many buyers to take as possible and create competition, and marketing is important for that. So just bear that in mind. It's when you do get around to selling, I know it's going to be nerve-wracking to go on the market and put yourself out there, but unless there's a genuine reason not to, unless you've got a really difficult committee or a lot of staff, if that's a genuine reason, just bear in mind that the off-market sales are not for everyone. Just the last point there, if you're looking for new assets, bearing in mind a lot of some stuff does get sold off market, bear in mind it's quite good to sort of saddle up and create a good relationship with a broker. Because obviously, typically as all brokers, we've got 15 agents who work in the managed homes department. We share all of those things. If you're working closely with a particular broker, they know what your requirements are. When off-market business do come up, then let you know about it. So just saying, I guess there's two ways of looking at new properties. One is to look online, and the other is to make sure you have a close relationship with your broker. This is an interesting one. Jeff's going to give us a bit of a case study on this in a second. But again, going back 10, 15 years, it was pretty much a really firm rule that you never, ever approach a committee or make anyone aware of the sale until you go unconditional. Things are slightly different these days. Body corporates, as we all know, perhaps can be more difficult than they used to be, or perhaps a bit more empowered, can make that assignment process a little bit more difficult. Also, because modern day communication and just things getting out there, it's easier for people to find out. So, depending on the situation, we do encourage people to consider whether it's worth notifying the committee earlier. If you've got a really good relationship with the committee, you might be worth letting them know early on so they feel part of the process and they don't get upset. They might have when they're the last person to find out. If you've got a bad relationship with the committee or they're nervous about who's going to come in, again, it might be worth notifying them early on so they can meet the buyer, informally approve them up front. You can't become part of the process. If they're committed and the outcome is very unlikely, it's not going to go through. So, dealing with committees up front can certainly save time and can make the time smoother. The final point there is absolutely key. Don't take this advice from me, take this advice from John and Amy. It's a blind legal point, exactly how you approach it, and it's got to be done in the right way. And I usually get John's thoughts on this in a minute. But as I say, it's probably increasingly something that we're looking to do with transactions. Jeff's had a good experience with this recently, so he's going to quickly talk us through
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, this one's over about 12 months ago or so. Really extreme circumstances on this one, where the enterprise operator didn't have a great relationship with their committee, approached retirement age and looking to get out. Unfortunately, working with another agency, a couple of deals have fallen over on a fairly progressed getting to the retirement stage. It's gone on for 3 years. We came in and got involved. Obviously very invested in getting the result for the seller. They were quite unwell. So very motivated to get the fourth contract to stick. Some of the issues we're dealing with was a problematic body corporate lawyer in this instance and a very difficult chairperson. So we got involved, helped the seller in terms of identifying that maybe a new chairperson was required and maybe start working with a different body corporate lawyer. We were able to get involved in the process early on and sort of stepped out of process to get a buyer through to settlement. So just becoming involved early in the piece and getting the buyer's resumes and references and business plans were a really strong point. Really helped the committee to make the decision and ended up going through very smoothly. So there's plenty of instances where we're starting to do this more often. A couple of weeks ago I had another instance where we had the interview up front. The sellers were retiring and we introduced the buyer early. There'll still be a formal interview at the back end of the deal, but the committee were very appreciative of being involved in the process up front. And I can already tell them we'll go a long way when we get to this stage in a couple of months when the deal does go into division. But yeah, certainly instances where it does work really well.
Sounds like you're in the commission on that deal, right? Have you got anything you want to add on that, John? Do you got anything you want to add on that in regards to approach committee survey?
Yeah.
It's not the big issue to get going.
I've always had the view that I don't know that keeping it secret is the best thing to do. I think that can often be more good. If the committee finds out either indirectly through the local manager who is someone on a role search, or they hear on the grapevine or whatever. So I don't quite understand why there is that secrecy, desired secrecy. Interestingly, as you know, Americans are out there buying a number of enterprises. They insist that they get the right to meet the committee as part of their due diligence. So they're demanding that they meet members, at least 3 members, I think they specify in their contract. So my clients who are selling, all but one of the number of clients we've got American have pushed back on that requirement and we've got American think it's worth their while to do it, and the sellers in most cases believe so as well. So I'm not sure that I can think of a circumstance where it really is desirable to keep it secret at the last minute.
Thank you very much, John. Next slide is on real estate. Next slide is on real estate values and decoupling. John's obviously touched on this in some detail. So let's just unpack it from a commercial point of view. John explained it very well earlier. It's easy to look at the necessity of decoupling coming from increasing real estate values. It's more coming from the fact that the big proportion of the real estate, the total value of the business is increasing substantially. So it's all well and good to have a situation where your units going up in value. Your business isn't going up in net income, and it's forming a small part of the total equation. You still need to look at the overall return. So what's happening in many instances is that although the real estate's having to go up, we're having to reduce the multiplier on the business or reduce the value on the unit below what it generally were to get the whole thing to stack up. So, in situations where the unit is linked, arguably the separate value of the two, i.e. what would that business be worth as a business only, what would that unit be worth as a residential unit. Well, those two numbers are fairly high, and we can sell them for as they are together. So, in that instance, as I say, you're either selling under value, or you're having a look at, or you're going to explore decoupling, which John's obviously given us some insights on earlier. Another thing to bear in mind with decoupling, which I'm not sure we touched upon, is there is a middle ground there as well. The committee is particularly against you removing the requirement to own a unit. There is a middle ground where you can potentially remove the requirement to get on site. So if you do own a unit, you can rent that out and get additional income, which makes the overall package better. I'm going to get Jesse up here, who has got quite a few working examples on decoupling, and all of them has been a proactive approach from the manager to work with the committee and I suppose try and provide something they want in return for decoupling. So Jesse just going to give us a few examples of that.
Hey Jesse.
Hi. Okay, I'll try to stand on the side so you can all see me. Right, so talking about success rate, as John has mentioned before, there are, over the last 12 months, as you can see, I've only picked 3 live examples who these managers have successfully decoupled their units from the business. Having said this, let's start with example 1. So these are real properties. Obviously, for privacy reasons, we can't disclose the name of the property, but we can obviously share their experience and how they have succeeded. Start with the hard one. So I believe that all the managers sitting in this room love their committee members all the time. So with this particular one, well, they have, let's say, an average committee relationships, because these are relevantly newly established buildings, and these committee members has, over time, constantly challenging the manager, believing that the body corporate salary is too high. So as a result, both the manager and the body corporate committee has engaged 2 different consultants to come and conduct time and motion studies. As a result, both of the report shows that the manager's salary should be increased, and one of the report even shows that the salary increase should be around 100,000. So as we all know that, not surprisingly, the body corporate would not want you to honour this full increase. So as a smart move, the manager actually started to negotiate with the body corporate to say that, look, okay, how about we don't enforce that full increase, but in exchange we would like to have our manager's unit and requirement to live on site removed from the agreement. Look, it's not an easy negotiation. They have been forward and backward about, it's taking about more than 6 months to reach an agreement. The body corporate solicitors and the buyer solicitors has sort of been engaged to facilitate that negotiation, but at the end, the body corporate and the manager has reached an agreement to actually, at the same time, the manager increased the price, they've got the salary increase, but also they have succeeded to decouple the units. Just for interest's sake, the manager's unit at the time worth 1.3 million. So now they can sell the business as a business-only management right, so it's value for the business, and the unit has subsequently increased quite significantly, and obviously more stable now. Case B is, yes, so in this case, this is a long-standing manager that has been working on running the management rights business for about 7 to 8 years. Always have a great relationship, diligent manager, performing the duties really well. The reason why they would think, well, they would like to, the reason that they have put forward to the body corporate to wanting to remove the unit is that they're a family of 4. The manager's unit is a 2-bedroom apartment unit, which is naturally, as the kids grow older, it's not enough space for the family. So initially, it is a very harmonious relationship with the body corporate, and they actually gain support from the majority of the residents as well. So these are the relationships that's been built over the years. In some voices has been raised during the process from some owners to say that, oh, look, if you are not living outside anymore, how can you guarantee that you will perform the duties? This is as one of the natural questions, as John has mentioned before, in the consistency whilst you were previously lived on site for that many years. So in exchange, the manager proposed to offer to the committee that they will have a limited office hour, 3 days a week, and non-fixed office hours though, 2 hours a day. So as long as the office is manned and opened for 2 hours, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it shows that the manager would be committed to these times. Obviously, the emergencies after hours and so on, contactable during normal business hours still applies. So this is a fairly, let's say, easier or shorter, smoother outcome for this particular complex. Great results, but it's all based on a long-term healthy relationship with the committees and the residents over the years. The third one is an interesting one. So it has literally just happened over the last 3 months. It's the manager has owned this management for a number of years as well. Their body corporate salaries increase is either by CPI or 5%, whichever is greater currently. So this manager had a meeting with me because he is thinking of selling his management rights in 6 months' time, and we had a conversation. At the time, this couple thing is not on the table. As we went through the property details, he did mention that, look, you know what, some of the committees are expressing concerns, saying that 5% is quite significant it sort of raised some concerns during the committee meetings. So as a result, I was like, look, this is a great opportunity now. You can offer or start to negotiate with the committees to possibly decouple your units. So what he did is that casually he has approached the chairperson, treasury, secretary, and other committee members to have a casual conversation, not on the minutes, just to try to get a feel of their takes on him trying to, let's say, move out of the unit or decouple the unit. So after 2 weeks' time, he came back to me to say that, look, I do have some pushbacks regarding the decoupling, but I feel like people are quite relaxed about the requirement to live on site movement. So as a result, what he did is at the end, he has put forward 2 motions at the AGM. One is to decouple the units, the other one is to remove the requirement to live on site. From a negotiation perspective or from a commercial perspective, the body corporate would feel like, oh, look, you really want to decouple the unit, but then you have sort of stepped back a bit to say that, look, if that's not an option, at least can we please remove the requirement to live on site? Obviously, by the time when the AGM took place, the manager has also rallied up the owners within the complex as well, and again, majority of the support. As a good result, the motion got passed for him to decouple the units. So that's one of those as well. As you can see from experience, the process is really important to get your committee on site first. And possibly do this at an AGM instead of the EGM where possible. As we all know, EGM is just one motion. It grabs all the attentions. It's going to be sending out to the entire complex. Sometimes it may not be the best move. Secondly, yes, get your committee on your side first. As I've said before, avoid it for that discussion to go on to your official meeting minutes. That's the committee meeting minutes, not the AGM. So by the time of AGM, we already know whether if it's a go or not. However, if you feel like that the committee are not supportive of either decoupling or requirement to live on site, from a commercial perspective, do not put forward that motion. So put forward a motion where only you believe that there is a great possibility or great chance that you can get that motion through. Lastly, yes, from a saleability perspective, if you don't think a decouple is possible at this moment of time, try to get the requirement to live on site to be removed from your agreements. So, and having said this, if a requirement to live on site is associated with the bylaw, or if it's on the bylaw, it says that maybe it's a John and Amy question as well. As we've raised before, it's going to take a long time to actually do any adjustment or amendments to the bylaw. If it's just a caretaking and letting agreement, yes, it can go through a regular, ordinary resolution. Is it, John? Yeah, thank you. All right, that's me.
Thanks, Jesse.
We're running through a few interesting sales, just for a bit of anecdotal stuff that's going on in the market. We're going to do this really quickly. We're getting short of time. So, Jeff, do you want to quickly run through the next?
Yeah, so this is just a short-term sale towards the end of last year. I suppose shows the desirability of short-term assets of scale. This particular one was surrounded by 4 main hospitals in Golden Hills, so it was very attractive, being a health-based short-term complex, very high occupancy of 95% plus. Sold in a discreet marketing campaign.
Really quickly, because we're running out of time, just to be ridiculous. I don't mind like 30 seconds.
This is the location, 1.3 years, 1.2 million operating profit, is very attractive. We achieved a multiplier of core income of 6.6 times, and 3.6 times on the US income. The unit was very attractive, also a lower 680 AU. So I'm from the market.
Thank you, Jeff. This is a record rate of sale. Probably not many of us are involved in, but I'll run you through it anyway. Mybos is the 3 large permanent complexes that total net profit from the same operator, total net profit of about over $2 million. All were on a permanent basis. We sold about 7.5 times multiplier, which would be the record that we achieved in 2025, possibly a record ever. It seems high, there's very good reason for it. The person who's actually all like this, hotels, did their intentions to convert all of those payments over short term, which they've been extremely successful in doing in the first 6 months of the operation. So, yes, they paid 7.5 times, but that $2 million net profit would probably be more like $4 million net profit within the year or two. Good case in point is an interesting part of the market. What we're trying to get into short term, there's not that many short term assets available around. So your more experienced operators are increasingly looking for permanent complexes in good corporate locations where there's no restriction to do short term occupations. So it's a sort of almost a new area of the market. People looking for short terms to convert, for permanent occupiers to convert to short term. And Jesse, you want to comment?
Yeah. Okay, I'll do this fairly quickly. We're pressed for time now. Yes, both Alex and Jeff has talked about 2 very high net profit, large-scale enterprise, which was sold. One is sold off market, the other one is through a discrete campaign. So now to tag up with our previous topic, off market, on market, I will give you guys a live example of a property that is not suitable for, even though very high net profit as well, great locations, great asset classes, but not suitable for off-market campaign. So View Apartments located is actually on the verge of Brisbane City. So the postcode is 4000. It's a Brisbane City property with a total net profit of 650,000, but with a real estate price at 950,000 as well. This particular one has 2 towers, 3 body corporate, 2 body corporate plus a PVC. So, in this particular case, even though it still has a very healthy net profit, we would definitely need to have a proper marketing campaign and advertise the property to create interest and generate competitions among the buyers. And also, it is important that we tweak the multiplier and the real estate prices correctly, have that healthy proportion to create the correct, the right ROI for the buyers. at the end, because this property is going to settle in April, so it's not settled yet, that therefore we cannot disclose the multiplier or the sell price at the moment. But having said this, both the vendor and the buyer are very happy to get what they needed at the end, which is good, especially the buyer is in this particular one, this permanent management rights at the moment, it can be converted or have potential to be converted to short term. So it's a great upside income-wise for the buyer.
We are being told by these wrapped up. We've run out of time. There's lots of wonderful information. Thank you everybody for coming, everyone for taking your time. Thanks again to the sponsors, Mahoneys, Holmans, Mybos. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you everybody. Have a great day.